Welcome to the Project Endure podcast, the place where we talk about life, endurance, persistence, perspective, and so much more. I'm Joe Rinaldi, and I'll be your host. Let's jump in. Before we get started, let me share a quote with you. The great Les Brown once said, "You can't see the picture when you're in the frame." If you've felt stuck in your fitness, mindset, or life as a whole, head down to the link in the show notes and reach out to learn more about Project Endure Coaching so that we can help you step outside of the frame and bridge the gap between who you are now and who you want to be. We can't wait to hear from you. Now, let's get to the episode. Welcome back to the Project Endure podcast. My name is Joe Rinaldi, and this is a bonus episode. I am recording this on Sunday, September 22nd, 2024, the same day that I completed 24 hours of stairs. I'll explain more just here in a second, but I want to start with a disclaimer. Bear with me. I have not slept in 36 hours. And I am feeling a bit delusional. I have not had a drink in over 11 years. And part of me feels like I've had a couple beers. So this should be interesting. But for those of you listening who don't know what I'm talking about, I, along with 29 other individuals, just completed 24 hours of stairs at the Art Museum Steps here in Philadelphia, also known as the Rocky Steps. Now, this event is a fundraiser that happens every year. It's put on by the Legacy of Hope, and the purpose is to raise money and support for local cancer patients in Philadelphia and their families who are facing hunger and homelessness. Needless to say, it's an amazing cause, and I'm excited to talk more about the event as well as some of the takeaways that I had. And so to dive in, right, this event was put on my radar just a few months back, and it had been something I had heard about through the grapevine, something that I hadn't strongly considered, but there was something inside of me that just wanted to explore and learn more. And so I had a conversation with the organizers of the event and decided that this would be an amazing challenge for an amazing cause, and I signed up. So with that being said, the initial game plan going into this event was to fundraise. That was the purpose, was to fundraise for the Legacy of Hope and to help other people who are going through hard things. In addition to that, the purpose was to subject ourselves to 24 hours of a really hard thing. And so the initial game plan going into this event was to complete as many stairs and as much distance as possible. I'll be honest, I did not know what that would look like. I didn't have a good benchmark. And so I had set out with the number 60 in mind. I thought 60 miles would be a great number to shoot for. And I didn't have a whole lot to support that other than the fact that it would be 2.5 miles per hour to hit 60 miles. So with that being said, the initial game plan was to average about 3 miles per hour. And while that did end up happening, it didn't happen how I thought it would. To make a long story short, I went out way too hot. And I was clipping off 10-minute miles at various points through the first few hours, which was not part of the plan. It was hot out on the steps when the sun came up. It was about 80 degrees in Philadelphia, and when the sun was on you, you felt it. And so I ended up getting some decent sunburn, and I also had some trouble keeping my heart rate down. It spiked into the mid to high 180s at various points through the first 8 hours, which was not ideal. So I adjusted the plan to include some more walking segments in order to bring down the heart rate, and that worked well. Spirits were high in the beginning, and it was nice to have people roll through to visit and share some steps with me. It was nice to see familiar faces. I was really looking forward to seeing my wife, Michaela, when she got off of work. So she was working on that Saturday. And when she got off work, she walked over to the steps, and it just put such a huge smile on my face to see her there in the early evening. And I was so proud to be able to show her, hey, look, I already did 30 miles. And so we ran some steps together, and it just made me so happy to have her there. I think though the lowest point for me out of the entire 24 hours was after she left to go home. I was feeling run down from a physical standpoint and also from an emotional one. Realizing that I had the entire night ahead of me was daunting. Leading up to this event, I remember for a few weeks, I would get to, 8, 9 p.m. in the evening and think, man, at this point, I would have been out on the steps for about 12 hours and I would have 12 hours more. So, context, the event started at 9 a.m. on Saturday, September 21st, and it went through 9 a.m. on Sunday, September 22nd. And so I had that thought, how hard it would be to have 12 hours behind me and 12 hours ahead of me. However, what had happened was I hit this low point about 9 hours in. So it was 6 p.m. Michaela had headed home. And I just felt so overwhelmed at the thought that we still had 15 hours left and I was already feeling so low. I remember sitting in the foldable chair underneath our tent, just with my head between my knees, wanting to curl up into a ball, thinking about how comfortable it would be to just, stop, to nap, to just say, I don't need to hit that goal. I'm just going to sail it in and I'll take it easy. Um, those thoughts crossed my mind. But with 15 hours left, the game changed a bit when I took some Advil. The aches and the pains that I was experiencing started to subside. I was feeling a lot of calf tightness, a lot of Achilles tightness, some knee discomfort, and just general fatigue, along with some foot pain. But once that Advil kicked in, I got a second wind. And in fact, overnight from about 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., when the city was dark and you could see the skyline lit up in the background, it was great for me. I was cooking. I found a groove and I rode that for as long as I could. The plan of attack that worked well for me was to sprint up the first large flight of stairs, to walk the flat landing that led to the last small flight of stairs, and then to sprint up those stairs before slapping the art museum with my hand and jogging back down. I did the math in hindsight, and I slapped the wall around 375 times. And there was just something about making solid contact with a wall of such a beautiful historic building that gave me a boost of energy each time I reached the top. And there was part of me that fed off of the ridiculousness of what was happening. It wasn't lost on me that what we were doing was and is crazy. We were running stairs for 24 hours. And at this point, we were doing it while the rest of the city was asleep. I'll add a few miscellaneous things that people might be interested in. I aimed for and executed on 24 ounces of water each hour, 1,200 milligrams of sodium each hour, and 75 to 90 grams of carbs each hour. I made proactive stops to get nutrition in, to change shoes, socks, and shorts. I also made an effort to use Body Glide to prevent chafing, but dropped the ball on that toward the end, and I am paying for that at the moment. And what I mean by proactive is I ate before I felt like I need to. I drank before I felt like I need to. I came in with a plan and knew what needed to be done, and I stuck to that plan, and that served me well. Through the event, there was music that was going for all 24 hours, and at various points that picked me up. The power of music and a rhythm and a feel. It was also nice to have other people from the Project Endure Circle participating in the event and supporting one another. We had a few clients and a few friends who were in the event, and we also had quite a few people who came out to support us, crewing us, pacing us, and just there to lift spirits and show support. The event for me highlighted the importance of shared suffering and doing hard things together because it allows us to endure more than we ever could alone. And looking back again, the same day that I finished this event on very little sleep, the thing that stands out to me the most in terms of a highlight and memories is being able to give high fives and fist bump uh, other participants as we passed each other on the steps. It was to offer encouragement and to walk alongside other people who were hurting and doing hard things. Those moments were small, they were short, but they were precious. And I really appreciate that. And I made some great new friends who I hope to stay close with going forward. So, what I'll do from here is I'll highlight a few points just to touch on some important pieces for me. And so, from a training standpoint, this might surprise some people, but I have never run further than I did over those 24 hours. So, I completed 74.4 miles. So, this was a personal best. And I've also never climbed that much elevation. Almost 13,000 feet, give or take, depending on how much you trust the tracking devices. And for reference, that's about half the elevation gain as Mount Everest. And so I'm proud of that. Next, the human body is capable of so much more than we give it credit for. And the mind is so much more powerful than we realize. Just to put that in perspective, outside of a single 6-hour training session that I did on the steps about 2 or so weeks ago, where I covered 25.1 miles, I didn't do much, outside of normal strength training and the daily run streak that I have going. So, all that to say is I was underprepared on paper, and I came out and I put my mind to it, and I was smart and I didn't stop. And it resulted in what I feel is a great outcome, one that I'm very proud of. I am so grateful for everyone who came out to support. I had people reach out. Uh, man, I am overwhelmed at the moment, if I'm being honest, with hundreds of text messages and hundreds of DMs, and I will do my best to get back to people through the coming week. So I'm so grateful for that support. I also had people come out and say that they would be there, and they came out and they were there. And it was nice to see familiar faces, people who I've already met in person and people who I haven't. And whether that be clients or friends or family, it was so special to have people there and to have people run up and down those steps with me. And then there were a few people who I didn't expect to come. I didn't ask them to come, and it would have been out of their way to make it there. But they showed up, and those surprises gave me the boost that I needed to keep going at some moments. And it was really, really, it was really special to me to have those people there. So if that's you, thank you. If you supported me in this endeavor in any way, thank you. I am also so proud of all the people who push themselves through this event, whether that be clients or friends, and people who set new personal bests, people who pushed their limits, people who did the work and didn't quit. I am so proud of you. If you were participating in the event and you're listening to this episode, just know that I am, from the bottom of my heart, so proud of you. And it was a privilege and an honor to share that experience with you. Next, I just was reminded how precious life is, and that life is so much bigger than just us. It is an honor to be alive, to have health, to have all the things we tend to take for granted. It is such a gift and a blessing, and it's a privilege to be able to do hard things for people who don't get to choose their hard. That's what this podcast is about. It's about the hard things we choose and the hard things that choose us. And while I not sure you can ever fully replace the hard things that happen to us in terms of the value and the lessons and the impact on our lives. I do think that manufactured hard goes a long way. And we put ourselves in the pain cave. It hurt, it was hard, and we didn't stop. And there's a lot to be said for that. And we stood with those people who don't have a choice in their suffering. Next, it comes in waves. Again, I mentioned the low point that I experienced around 6 p.m. where we were 9 hours in and I just felt low. It's amazing to me. And we touched on this in the bonus episode we did for Jess Leventree's 100-mile race where I coached and crewed and paced her. But it all comes in waves, right? You can feel so low one moment and the next you can feel so high. You can be struggling for hours and then for minutes feel good, or for hours feel good, or for the rest of the event feel great. There's just no predicting what brings the waves, how long they'll last. But the one thing that I am certain of is that if you want to get to the other side of the low points, you have to keep going. You have to put one foot in front of the other. You just can't quit. And that, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. range of hours that I described earlier, that was a wave that I rode, right? I felt so good. And I made it a point not to stop for too long, not to walk for too long, to just ride out that wave and try to stretch it out to make it last. Momentum is a real thing. And whether it's in a 24-hour stair event, on a run, in a race, or even just in everyday life, capitalize on momentum. When you feel like things are going well, double, triple down, lean into that. And when things are going hard, when it's not going your way, just put one foot in front of the other, because that does not last forever. So I want to share a quick quote from William James, who said, "Most people never run far enough on their first wind to find out that they've got a second." And this event reiterated that for me. You just keep going. The highs and lows come and go, but you control what you can control. And there's so much power in that. The next big point brings me back to the bonus episode that I recorded in 2022 about the New York City Marathon, which was, at that point in my life, the hardest physical thing I had ever done. And if you've never listened to that episode, I would recommend it. There's a lot of deep reflection, and I think a lot that applies not just to runners, but to everyone in life. But where I'm going with this is that I wanted to quit so bad during that race, right? It did not go the way I had wanted. It was uncomfortable, and I just wanted it to stop, but I didn't. And I think hard things are all about learning about ourselves and making the conscious choice to step into the discomfort that is going to bring us closer to our full potential. And so I'll share a quote that I hold close to the chest because it means so much to me. This is from Matt Fitzgerald, who said, "Every athlete who has pushed beyond his or her known limits of endurance in the quest for improvement understands these sentiments. There is no experience quite like that of driving yourself to the point of wanting to give up and then not giving up. In that moment of raw reality, when something inside you asks, how bad do you want it? An inner curtain is drawn open, revealing a part of you that is not seen except in moments of crisis. And when your answer is to keep pushing, you come away from the trial with a kind of self-knowledge and self-respect that can't be bought. In other words, do hard things." To wrap this up, because I'm overheating at the moment. Ever since the race ended, I've gone through these cycles of feeling very cold and very hot. And so I will wind this down so I can eat some Chinese food, which I'm looking forward to, potentially take another shower because I just feel like I need it, and just rest for the remainder of the evening. I just want to say that I'm feeling beat up. I've got a giant blister on the bottom of my right foot. My joints hurt bad. My muscles are sore. And I'll say this, just all the strength training that I've done on my legs, for the last 15 years certainly paid off with an event like this. I felt very, very strong, and the muscle soreness that I'm experiencing and will continue to experience is very mild and minor compared to what it could have been. And so I feel prepared, and I'm grateful that I've put in that work. But with that being said, I'm hurting, and it's going to hurt. And I am going to give everything that I have to hobbling through the next day of the run streak. And I'll respond to everyone who reached out at some point in the coming week. And I am just so filled with gratitude for the support that I have in doing these hard things. And I want you to know that if you're listening to this, whether we've met in person, we've met online, or we've never met at all, I support you in pushing limits. I support you in doing hard things. And if there's any way that I can be in service as you continue to pursue the best version of yourself, let me know. I would love to talk, and I mean that with all of my heart. So I'm proud of what I did, and I'm proud that I did what I said I would, and that I went above and beyond with the effort that I gave. And I'm looking forward to the next big challenge, whatever that might be. For now, it's time to get some rest. And I just want to thank you so much for listening, for all of the support, and for the fact that you are committed to doing hard things. I'll catch you on the next one. If you enjoyed this episode of the Project Indoor podcast, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review on your platform of choice, and share this episode with a friend. It helps us get more conversations like this out to more people like you. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time. And one more thing. If you're looking for a community of people all striving to be better together, check out the Project Indoor Hard Things Club. The link is in the description below. We'd love to have you.